Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by tall, misty mountains, there lived a 24-year-old young man named Marco. From the outside, Marco seemed like any other villager, strong, hardworking, and kind, but inside, his mind was always in chaos. Thoughts raced through his head from morning till night. He would remember mistakes from his past and feel guilty, then worry endlessly about what might happen in the future. His mind was like a storm that never stopped. Couldn't sleep well, couldn't feel calm, and had almost forgotten how to smile. Every day, his thoughts kept him trapped in an invisible prison of restlessness. One morning, while sitting under a tree near the river, Marco overheard two travelers talking. They spoke of a small, distant village in the hills where a wise old man lived. That man, they said, had once been a famous psychologist in the city. For many years, he had helped people find peace and balance in their lives. But when he grew old, he left the noisy city behind and settled in a quiet place close to nature. Sometimes people from far away would visit him, seeking advice and wisdom. They said he could calm any troubled heart. When Marco heard this, a small spark of hope lit inside him. Maybe this wise man can help me, he thought. Maybe he can show me how to quiet this storm in my head. So, after a few days of preparation, Marco packed a small bag and began his journey toward the mountains. The path was long and tiring. He crossed rivers, walked through forests, and climbed steep hills. Days turned into nights, but Marco didn't give up. Finally, after many days, he reached the quiet village in the hills. The air there felt different, fresh, clean, and peaceful. The sound of the wind in the trees and birds singing seemed to whisper calmness. At the edge of the village stood a small house covered with vines and flowers. Smoke rose gently from its chimney. On the porch, Marco saw an old man sitting silently on a wooden chair. His eyes were closed, his face calm and gentle, as if nothing in the world could disturb him. Marco walked closer and softly said, "Grandfather, my mind is very restless. I cannot stop thinking. I want peace in my heart. Can you help me?" The old man slowly opened his eyes and smiled kindly. His voice was calm as he said, "So, you are looking for peace? Then come with me, my child. I will give you a small task." He stood up and led Marco to a small yard beside the house. There, he filled a glass of water all the way to the top so full that even the slightest movement could make it spill. Then he handed the glass to Marco and said, "Walk from here to the edge of the village and come back. Remember, you must not spill even a single drop of water." Marco was puzzled. What could such a strange task have to do with finding peace? But he respected the old man and decided to do his best. He took the glass carefully, holding it steady with both hands, and began walking slowly. The path through the village was narrow and full of activity. Children were running and playing. Shopkeepers were calling out to customers. Women were chatting, and dogs barked loudly. But Marco did not look at anything or anyone. His eyes stayed fixed on the glass of water. Each step was taken with great care. He could hear the noise around him, but did not react. He focused only on not letting a single drop fall. Villagers noticed him moving so carefully and smiled knowingly. They had seen many travelers doing strange things under the old man's guidance. They didn't disturb him. They simply watched quietly, knowing he was learning something important. Finally, after some time, Marco returned to the old man. Not a drop of water had been spilled. He smiled with relief and said proudly, "Grandfather, I did it. I didn't spill a single drop." The old man nodded with a gentle smile. "That's good," he said. Then he asked, "But tell me, Marco, did you see the children playing on the side of the road? Did you notice the people talking or hear the dogs barking?" Marco blinked in surprise. "No," he admitted. "I didn't see or hear anything. I was only focusing on the glass." The old man smiled again, his eyes kind and full of understanding. "That," he said softly, "is the secret of peace. What you just experienced is something that was always inside. You've simply never noticed it before. When your mind stays completely in the present moment, there is no space left for fear, regret, or worry. You were not thinking about your past mistakes, nor were you afraid of what might happen later. You were simply focused on what was happening right now, keeping the water in the glass safe. At that moment, your mind was calm and silent." Marco stood still, thinking about the old man's words. They began to make sense. He realized that for those few minutes, while walking with the glass, he had felt a strange kind of peace. He hadn't thought about anything else, no sadness, no anxiety, no self-doubt. Just focus, just the present moment. The old man continued, "Our thoughts are like waves on the surface of the ocean. When you think too much about the past or the future, the waves become strong and restless. But when you bring your attention to this very moment, the waves settle, and you can see the reflection of peace that was always there. Peace is not something you must find outside. It is already within you. You just need to learn how to see it." Marco's eyes softened. For the first time in many years, his heart felt light. The constant noise in his head had quieted. He bowed his head respectfully and said, "Grandfather, now I understand. If I want peace, I must live in this moment. Not in the past that is gone, and not in the future that hasn't come yet. Peace is here now." The old man smiled again, his eyes glowing like the gentle light of evening. "Yes, my child," he said. "Life is happening now. If you keep your attention in this moment, no storm of thoughts can shake you." The sun was setting behind the mountains. The golden light touched the fields, and the birds were flying back to their nests. Marco thanked the old man and began walking back down the path. But now, everything looked different. The same trees, the same houses, the same road yet. Everything seemed more alive, more beautiful. He could hear the rustle of leaves, feel the softness of the wind, and notice the peace in every sound. For the first time, he wasn't lost in thoughts. He was present. He was free. When Marco returned to his village, people noticed a change in him. He no longer looked restless or tired. His eyes were calm, his smile gentle. He still worked hard, faced challenges, and lived his ordinary life, but now he did everything with a quiet mind. Whenever his thoughts began to storm again, he remembered the glass of water and the lesson of the old man. Peace, he had learned, was never far away, was always within him, waiting patiently for him to come back to the present moment. And from that day forward, Marco lived not just as a man from the mountains, but as someone who had finally learned how to still the storm within.